Hi students, it's me, Mrs. Finner. I'm going to go over helping you today creating goals based on your NWEA test. I know it seems like it's a lot of information, there's a lot of colors and numbers, so I'm just going to break it down super simply for you, and it's a little more confusing, I know, because with English class we took 2 tests, and in math you took 1 NWEA test, but I'm really going to make it as easy to understand as I can for you with this video. So this video is for students that were given a goal setting worksheet by me or by the sub. Hopefully you're watching this on Friday. If you did not have that worksheet with you, you can do this over the weekend. That worksheet should be filled out based on the information I give you in this video. Your parents should sign it, and then I need it returned back to me by Monday, November 2nd. So I'm just going to jump into this with you. So the yellow slides are for your reading test. So with English class, we took 2 NWEA tests. We took our first one, which was a reading test, and then our second one was on language usage. So I'm going to help you kind of decode what your goal should be. I've already had lots of students ask me, Mrs. Finner, like, where do I need to be? That's relative to how you scored. So your strengths and weaknesses are going to be different than your friend or the person who sat next to you, right? So these goals are individual to you and what you personally need to have growth on. So if you look at the upper left-hand corner, there's going to be a blue bar with a number at the top. That is your RIT score. So your RIT score is basically the main score you got. So this is a student example. The student is no longer in the district, and I blacked out all of their information. So this student's overall RIT score for the reading test was a 220. So you can see by the blue bar, their score was 220. And then if you look at the dotted line, that was that student's goal. So their goal was to grow 4 points and improve and get a score of 224. So that's basically what this slide says. The dotted line is their next goal. That's how many points you need to increase. So the first thing you should do on your paper is write my overall, so it's right here, my overall NWEA goal is to increase by blank points. That's what you're going to write on the line that states student action plan. So for example, again, for the students, they were a 220. You can see it with this blue chart. It's also stated here with their overall RIT score. So this student would write, my goal is to increase by 2 points, or I'm sorry, 4 points, because they're trying to get to a 224. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. Next, you have a 3-category breakdown for this reading test. So the first quick category is literature. Then you were tested on nonfiction components or skills, and then lastly, vocabulary. So those are your 3 breakdowns. And each category is going to have a color next to it. So if you had a green by something, that means you did great. You did above average. So that's a strength of yours. That's something that you do really well. If you had a gray or there was no color, like it wasn't highlighted, that was an average good. And then if it's yellow, that's an area that you personally need to improve on. And we want to focus our goals on the yellow because those are areas of possible concern. And if you're already doing well on something, we're going to spend less time with it. We're going to focus on where you need to build your skills. So again, green is great, gray is okay, yellow is like, if you think of a yellow light, it's we need to stop. So yellow is we need to stop, pause, and make sure that you have mastery of these skills. So again, going back to the student sheet, this student had green, which is good for literature and vocabulary. But as you can see, this student had a yellow for nonfiction. Try to highlight it, nonfiction. So this student needed to improve with their nonfiction skills because that is, as you can see, number-wise where they were the lowest, but it's also indicated by that yellow color and that yellow highlight. So that's how you kind of look at that, okay? So I'm hoping that that was helpful. That breaks down the first half of our reading test. Then you're going to go to the blue slide here. So the blue slides here and here are for our language usage test. So we have a reading test is our test 1. Then our second test is language usage. So again, you're going to look at the same place. Blue bar is your RIT score, the score you currently have. And then that dotted line above it is going to be your goal. So again, the first thing you're going to write is my overall NWEA goal is to increase by blank points. So again, you're going to write that here, right, for your reading test, and you would write that here for your language test. So again, this student scored lower in language usage than reading, which is fine because each student is individual and unique. So their overall RIT score was a 220, and their goal is to increase by 4 points and get to 216. So they again would need to increase with their student action plan. They would say, my overall NWEA goal is to increase by 4 points. So that would be their overall goal. Okay. So then again, we have a 3-category breakdown. We have, let's see, these are longer category titles, but you basically have like a writing one. So it's called Write, Develop, Revise for Purpose and Audience, basically like an kind of like an editing, but writing. You have conventions. So can you understand, edit for grammar and usage? And then lastly, conventions, understand and edit for mechanics. And we'll kind of go into like, what the heck does that mean? Because I know it's super kind of confusing and very vague or broad sounding. Again, green is great, gray is average or good, yellow is we need to stop and reflect. So if we go to this student, for the Write, Develop, Revise for Purpose and Audience, they needed to improve there. They had a yellow, so that was a pause and reflect. Same with conventions, editing for grammar, but they did well with conventions, understand and edit for mechanics. So they did really well. So this is an area that they don't really need to focus on because they're already doing really well. That's a strength of theirs, whereas the 2 yellows are where they would need to focus. So what does that mean skill-wise? Because remember, we talk a lot in class about this is a skill-based course. We don't just do reading comprehension questions like, what's the character's hair color, right? We're focusing on these skills. So let's see how we can use those skills for reading. So for reading literature, they're going to ask you questions under the literature category. Because remember, there's 3 categories: literature, nonfiction, and vocab. For literature, they're going to ask you about literary elements. So do you know plot? Do you know different literary terms and definitions? Theme is really important, right? We talk about creating theme statements a lot. You've already had practice with it so far this year in my class, writing theme statements, identifying good theme statements, and then identifying the central idea of a text or the main idea. So you're already really familiar, or you have a base level understanding of those skills. Then they also talk about a literary structure and point of view. We're going to get into those in quarter 2, 3, and 4, but it's basically, how does the author organize the text? You've had a little bit of practice with this because we've organized our own writing with compare and contrast, right? That's a way to organize a text. And point of view, is it told through first person, second, and third? You've already had a little exposure to this, but again, we'll go more in depth as the year goes on. With nonfiction, we're working on, can we comprehend a nonfiction text? So this nonfiction text could be maybe like a technical writing piece or a news story. So again, you've already experienced reading some nonfiction. Sorry, my dog's barking. And we'll get more into it as the year progresses. Again, you're finding the central idea of a nonfiction text and you're making inferences. We talk about inferences all the time, right? Can you make a prediction, an educated guess? So that's something that we talk about a lot. For vocab, context clues, word patterns, again, that's where etymology comes in, right? Word relationships, nuances, figurative language, again, things and skills that we'll get into, but you've already been exposed to so much of this, so you guys are already on a great, great path. Then if you go to the language usage portion, this is where our writing piece becomes super critical. So we're going to look at conducting research, which we've already done, right? When we did our Salem witch trials assignment, we did some research. We talked about reputable sources. We support our ideas with textual evidence, right? We don't jump to a conclusion. We draw a conclusion with evidence. It's, can you introduce your ideas? Can you organize them? Can they be cohesive and easy to understand? So I'm not going to go super in depth with all of this, but these are the skills for each of the categories. So how are you going to create your goal? So you're going to look at the center below your overall RIT score, and you're going to look at the colors and focus on the yellow colors. And you need to think of these things that relate to the yellow category. So you can use these 2 slides, and you can look at the black skills and say, for example, if you're low in literature, I'm going to focus on the skills of theme and finding the central idea. So that is something, beating the battery here. My computer's gonna die. So that's something that you can really focus on. So an example is, if your nonfiction is yellow, I need to focus on finding the central idea of a text and making inferences. Snaps for you. Give you a snap, crackle, pop. That sounds great. Once you have made a comment on your goal sheet about each yellow, so you need to make one sentence for each yellow category. Once you do that, think about the following question. What can you do to improve your overall performance in English? I gave you some examples. Turning your work in on time, being really consistent, giving 100% full effort, asking for help. A lot of you don't reach out to me, I think, as much as you should. I am here to support you. That is my main job. And then watching my YouTube videos that I create if you don't understand the content. Ooh. Oh, my computer's gonna die. I hope that was helpful. I know I sped against the clock, but again, please complete this, turn it in by Monday. If you have questions, I can answer them Monday. I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.